Hello, I'm John Coleman from ApocatastasisInstitute for the Humanities, an alternative college and high school here on New Milford, Connecticut, USA. Although we may have a branch in India soon enough, so how do you like that? We're meeting here today with Vandana Rataria, and we're going to be learning about cursive handwriting, why it's important, and all sorts of deeper things about graphology and about her program, of course. And of course, we also recall Vandana uh, has a great collaboration, and we have a great collaboration with her at the Institute concerning mathematics. So herself is available both for the topic of cursive handwriting as well as mathematical handwriting with her innovative, certainly rare in North America, use of the abacus. Before Vandana brings us up to date with her exciting work and her very busy work over in India, just one announcement concerning Apocatastasис, and that is as we're winding down the spring semester, 2025, those of you who are considering enrolling in our summer and especially our autumn full-time courses, giddy up and get in touch and don't leave it to the last minute. So get your mind together there and we'll get the ball rolling for those coming term enrollments, including with mathematics. So anyway, Vandana, welcome back. Welcome back. How have you been since we spoke? Nearly a year ago, I suppose, on this show.
That's right. Thank you so much for having me yet again, John. I think it's an absolute pleasure always chatting with you. And I just see it in a way where we chat, we talk about stuff, and it just happens to, be on StreamYard. So it's more like that, I feel.
Great. And Vandana, for people who are unfamiliar and haven't had the chance to catch our last talk, which is on our
Right,
website under
right.
Vandana's subpage, tell us a little about yourself and about EJ classes and your academic interest and so forth.
Right. So EJ classes, EJ technically stands for Education Junction. It's basically your one-stop place for all things education, and it was actually started by my mom around 2 decades ago. I have been tutoring since more than a decade. I feel now because since the last time we spoke, I it's been a year to it already. So yeah, that is. And with EJ classes, I actually really aim to go beyond education and really, focus on things that you can always have with you, even when you don't choose to really get in an education related field. For example, even if you want to be an artist, I mean, education is very crucial. I mean, we can't deny that. But it's for me, I feel like it's a lot to do with skill based stuff, which goes much beyond education in general. So I think that's what we do with abacus and cursive handwriting.
And with education in general, whether that's in Asia or here in North America or throughout the world besides, there are a lot of uh, changes coming. There are a lot of changes coming. And this is a very interesting time to really reconsider what is education, what is schooling. And to your point, thinking outside the box, thinking maybe to those skills that we've lost in um, our being impressed with technology and so forth. We've lost the abacus, or or for that matter, we've been so taken with typing that we've in fact forgotten how to handwrite and the benefits of those things. I think this is such an interesting time as educationalists, Vandana, because we have the opportunity um, to reclaim a lot of these old skills and a lot of the reasoning behind them.
That's so true, John. And I also feel that when we discuss about this, and I think I can speak for you as well. We don't intend to take the core and the value of education away, because for me as well, I'm a graduate in accounting and finance. But when I started teaching with my mom, it was just something I realized comes a lot more naturally to me. and the kind of impact that, as tutors or anyone who's involved in the education field can make is just so huge. So I feel like it's very, very important that we shuffle things up a little, see how, we can make a difference, and just, yeah, reconsider a lot of stuff that has been just there for a really long time, and start questioning stuff. I feel. I think that's what I mean. Just like, I know we're going to discuss deeper, but that's what homeschooling a lot of people really do, I feel.
Excellent. And just by way of production notes for Vandana and for the audience, if there's a slight delay between responses, that's simply because I'm ticking off or unclicking the mute button. So everyone, please just bear with me with that little production note there as we go along. But yes, cursive handwriting altogether, I suppose, is certainly a dying skill. I recall Vandana, and this had been in the late 1990s here in Connecticut, um, maybe getting one semester in third grade, and then one semester or one quarter even in fourth grade of cursive handwriting, and that was it. That was it before or after. That was the totality of our engagement with the topic and with that mode of expression. And this was the 1990s. And it really wasn't until high school that, out of sheer boredom for one of the classes I was taking, I decided to learn how to do cursive, and have stuck with it since. But how is it in India with handwriting? Is it more of a something that's been preserved?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just sort of same throughout the world, where with the whole smartphone, AI, and just everything else coming in general, people just feel so much more comfortable to, you know, just type things out in their notes, and, just generally use the digital format a lot, which is great if it's used correctly, I feel. But the lost art of handwriting in general, I feel that's it's just something too special, and, people who really valued it long time back, we should just go back a little and have a chat with them. How is it really like to note everything down on a notepad with a pencil, pen, stuff like that? So I feel like that's something, there are still a few of us who sort of find more comfort in that than just putting everything on the notes. So I feel I'm one of them. What about you?
Yes, indeed. When we talk about education, as I tell the high schoolers here, uh, someone who's educated, properly speaking, isn't someone who knows a lot of things. Education and learning, or education and schooling, ought to help each other out as one hand washes the other, but they're not the same. They're not synonymous. And part of that is that there is a value, whether it's handwriting or long form reading, for that matter. There is a value that is deeper. So, for instance, if I type a text message to Vandana or to you, dear audience, um, and if I handwrite it, yes, the message is the same. That's being delivered. Maybe the time that it takes to get there is different, but there's a whole other level um, of connection when it comes to handwriting, and there's a whole other level, frankly, of intentionality when it comes to handwriting, as opposed to simply typing something. And there was a German philosopher, somewhat infamous in the 19th century, called Friedrich Nietzsche. Have you heard of Nietzsche, Vandana, to put you on, give you a pop quiz from high school? Friedrich Nietzsche?
I mean, I think I'd like more information from you on that.
Indeed, you had a lot cooler philosophers in India anyway. So, but anyway, Nietzsche was an interesting character. The point is, he wrote a lot, And I always recall this vignette where he's writing in the 1880s, I think, and he's given a typewriter. He's up until this point, he's written, with a DIP, a dip pen. Up until then, like everyone else, he wrote with a dip pen with liquid ink, and he's given by a friend a typewriter, and he remarks about how that changed, the way he expressed himself. And just to make another parallel before I volleyball back the conversation to you, Vandana, just the change in media compared to long form writing compared to text. I use the example of Nietzsche and the typewriter. Also, I think we all have had experience with this. There is a very real difference between reading a book, reading an old book, old fashioned with pages, and then listening to an audiobook. Superficially, the audiobook and the old-fashioned way of reading are the same. In fact, the so-called, the audiobook so-called reading, you can cover a lot more text in that way, or a lot more words at least. And yet, having done these activities back to back sometimes myself, I walk away, just like handwriting and typing, the contrast, I walk away realizing these are two very separate activities, just like education and learning are two separate things. And anyway, those are just some initial thoughts I had.
Yeah, of course. I feel like I sort of completely relate to what you're saying in a way, because I mean, with the boom of convenience, what is eventually audiobook? Any form of writing it on notes, a digital format. It's all a form of convenience, right? Just to make things quicker and more easy for you. So, I mean, that's great. And it's always good to keep up with the times. But I feel like it shouldn't really take away from the the essence of really being able to just read a book, just feel a book, smell the pages. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I don't think, to be honest, even Kindle comes close. Nothing comes close to actually having a physical, like a book in your hand. And it's the same with handwriting, the lost art of writing letters, and even just generally being able to express yourself through writing. So if you type something, it would be similar for all, right? It doesn't matter who sends who what. But if we do the same thing and if you write it down physically, it's very unique to each person. It's not the same for all. It's extremely unique to every single human being. So I just feel like that is something we need to just understand and realize that a balance of everything is always nice.
Yes, that's a very interesting point that you bring up, that personality and handwriting. Because one of the things I've noticed, you're actually helping connect a few dots for me. One of the things I've noticed as time goes along is that people are reading less and less. We say that's literacy. So if you cannot read, one is said to be illiterate. But if you can read and you do not, you're said to be illiterate. You can read a traffic sign or a menu or a text message, but one who doesn't have that habit is illiterate. And one of the things, as at least in America, literacy continues to grow, is that people lose that nuance. They lose
Mhm.
those subtleties. And one of the big
Right.
problems we have in America right now is people get very involved in politics, and anyone who disagrees with them, they don't just disagree with them, but they don't want them around. They won't talk to their family members. It's really remarkable in a bad way.
Personal.
Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of them, I think, is that we are seeing almost completely now this very homogeneous, this very completely standard text, right? So when
Right.
Vandana sends me a text, or Joe Blow sends me a text, or whomever sends me a text, there's no difference between the letters. There's no personality to the letters, and forget about tone of voice and all the stuff that's lost in translation, in terms of text, communication to begin with. But we've ultimately, I think a lot of the bad interpersonal behavior we're seeing in America over the past 10 years or 20 years is because we're seeing this homogeneous text, this standardized text all over, and we forget that they're coming from different souls. They're coming from
Hmm.
different individuals, and we're just reacting to them like machines. Just probably the same stuff that happens when we drive cars, because we don't see the person's face. We just see an obnoxious piece of metal that doesn't signal when they should signal and cuts me off. And, and so I react to the obnoxious piece of metal with certain finger signs and certain things, forgetting that there's a human being inside there. And I
Right.
think we see the same breakdown with communication.
Right, 100%. I feel like, in general, John, I just feel like we've become more reactive than responsive. There's a huge difference in both these words. So I feel like, definitely, I mean, we need to also understand that every human being, the way our fingerprints, it makes us unique. Our handwriting makes us unique as well. And it's so different. I mean, if you see someone's, the old texts, the way they had written stuff, and the letters, the formations, and mostly, like, specifically cursive. Why I say cursive? Because I feel that's the master of all. And if you erase that, you erase everything else, and it becomes breeze. So yeah, it's actually extremely interesting to get into the whole interpersonal aspect of things.
And then just one final point before we get to the nuts and bolts of your course, Vandana, with EJ classes, and we take a look at that great website, which is down below, by the way, in the description, so the audience can easily access that. And just one final thought is a consideration that I've heard poets mention, but I think it's just as appropriate to any form of communication, and certainly written communication and handwritten communication, and that is the poets make a point, in fact, that to do poetry properly, whether that's to write it or to read it,
Hmm.
that one necessarily must slow down. In fact, the poet laureate, or the head poet in Connecticut, all of our states have head poets, and the country has a head poet every year. They get voted in by different people. A couple of years ago, this fella said, that was, in fact, the great genius of poetry, is that to do it proper, you had to slow down. You can't do a poetry proper and have it on an audiobook that's 3 times speed. I might be able to get through Charles Dickens that way if I have a test tomorrow, but I cannot truly said to have digested that text or poetry proper. And the same with this handwriting too, that maybe in this, the very interesting changing time that we're in generationally, we come to appreciate taking our time with words and the personality of it. I think the observation of the poet referenced is just as appropriate to handwriting, taking
So
time.
true, so true. And I really feel that, there's this poem by there's this poem, "There's no time to stand and stare." Just it's just right, it's just at the top of my head. I'm just forgetting the name of the, I think it's by Robert Frost, if I'm not wrong. And there's no time to stand and stare. So I feel like everything is just so fast paced that we really need to slow down in general in life, and we need to absorb and really have those moments to ourselves. And with handwriting, just reading a book, staring out of a window, just looking at the trees, feeling stuff, because that's so important. And I mean, human beings, there's a reason we are called human beings, because we're supposed to be, right? We are human beings. So that is just something that I feel like, I mean, life sucks you in, really, it really takes you all in, but we need to just keep reminding ourselves of that time and again.
Excellent, excellent. So, Vanana, I'm going to bring up your EJ classes on the screen. Is there a way, just by way of production notes here, is there a way you can slightly bring your camera down so that your head is above the text bar on the bottom?
I need to bring my camera a little down. Okay,
Yeah,
better.
there you go. There you go. Perfect. That's great. There you go.
Yeah.
So you got the whole. Your chin was kind of cut off by the bar there. So great.
Okay.
Here we are. So let's get this queued up, and let me know when you see it, and I will be able to navigate it
Yeah, I can see it now, John.
Grand. All right. So, let me one final thing. I'm just going to cut the audio, Vandana, and just give me directions as you need me to scroll or whatnot.
Right. I think we can just get started with the cursive made easy part, and you can just click on get started there. So, yeah, if it's actually before we head on, it's also mentioned there. And okay, we can just like scroll down 15 hours to smooth strokes and beautiful letters. So, I think this is one of the major highlights before we really delve deep into this is that we can really complete the entire course in 15 hours. It's always about, I mean, when I say this, I don't it's great to have a set of a sense of timeline and really be able to stick to it and achieve that. But at the same time, if any kid, because every kid is different, so if anyone is really taking a couple of hours longer, that's absolutely fine as well. But it's a complete possibility for us to really do it in 15 hours. And the first line, in fact, it's really interesting. Let your handwriting shape your life. So that really brings me to the point of graphologists, graphology, analyzing the handwriting, understanding, interpreting, and all of that. So basically, graphologists are people who analyze your handwriting and they tell you about your personality. So that is the kind of effect your handwriting can have on your personality. And it's basic math. If you really try to change your handwriting in any way, it it is going to have an impact on our personality and as well. So that's exactly why this is the headline of our page where it's just, I think it builds a lot of curiosity as well, because we understand where we are headed.
Mm. I think that's been very much lost too. The idea, we say our style, or in fact the way we speak or do our hair, these express our personality, and we've altogether forgotten that the same is true for handwriting.
So true. I mean, I think we're going down on a huge nostalgia trip here. The way you're just mentioning stuff, it's making me, really nostalgic about how we used to do so many things, and we can still do them. We can really still do them all. It's just about, just reminding yourselves about what is important and keeping a balance.
We will have to make a course on memorizing telephone numbers, which nobody does anymore, including their own. That used to be a thing. People used to remember their
Yeah.
telephones and other people's telephone numbers.
So
You
true. And now our brain has become in a way where, I mean, we hardly remember anything, John. Our attention span is so short. Like, even there is a sense of, the algorithm on any social media platform and everything else. They have this theory that, people scroll instantly within like the first 3 seconds. That is
Mhm.
the kind of attention span we have. I mean, it's crazy.
You have in your website, Vandana, these very cute illustrations throughout. We took a look at that last year with your mathematics one. You had all sorts of cool illustrations. Do you put these together? Are they stock, or do you have someone that compiles them for you? Or they're quite distinctive to your website.
Thank you, John. I think the credit goes to my brother, who's actually a digital marketer. So he's curated the entire website. I definitely had to be with him and really let him know how I want it to be, because it has to reflect my own sensibilities in a way.
Mm,
But yeah, with everything else, I think the credit has to go to him. So he's gonna
excellent.
really. I need to give the credit where due, because if he watches this, he's not gonna be happy about it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So direct away, Vandana. Should I scroll down?
Yeah, we
Okay.
must.
Great. Oh, look, it's coming out of a hole. I love it. Great. Okay. All right. There we go. Testimonials.
Yes.
Okay. And I need to just resize this here. I see. So we actually get the testimonials.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we actually first have these samples here where we have.
Excellent.
All along with the age groups, we have the samples of kids
Mhm.
how their handwriting was before the course and after the course. So all that you see
Mm.
here is after 15 hours. If we see this one, the one that's really moving by the age 7 years before and after, it's actually the difference is huge.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
I
mean
wonder if I can
this is
right click
something.
on these here.
Yeah, you can definitely like pause it for a minute and see. So these are all
Mm.
samples of, and how we really worked on the handwriting, and this is the result that we have achieved after 15 hours.
Now, is it an extra difficulty, Vandana, with students, especially young students who are just learning how to use a pen to begin with? Forget about cursive. Do you find it to be an extra difficulty that you can't be there to help position the pen proper in their hands? Children, I noticed, have a bad habit of sometimes resting the pen on the wrong finger and things. Do you find that's difficulty catching those errors?
Not much. I mean, I understand why you're saying that, but I feel that our age bracket is anyway 5 to 15. So the way I teach is usually, we have online classes through Zoom, and there is another set of like another camera where I zoom into anything that I want them to, focus on, whether it's holding the pen, the pencil, or how to just write the letters. So that is something that I really, like I zoom into through the other camera so they can really see my hand. It's almost, I mean, apart from just physically being there, there's nothing else that is different.
Okay, excellent. So for the audience who knows some of my presentations, this would be very similar to a document cam. I won't waste time changing the camera here, but uh, an overhead camera on the hand and on the writing there. So
Right,
yeah, wow. So that really gives you a close up. That's grand.
right.
All right, scroll down, Vandana.
Yeah, we must. So these are all the age groups for anyone who wants to just have a look at how it's going to be. It's definitely going to be different for each kid. So I personally curated. I have a chat with the parents that what are our areas of focus, how we can really, uh, work on things. So that's a very important chat that I have with parents before starting the course,
Hmm,
because it's important for me to curate it according to the kid.
of course, yes.
So yeah, these are the focus factors here where we focus on the formation and the correction of letters. And what I really want to say here is with our cursive, there are certain things we avoid. For example, if it's a small L, it's not double lined. Because what happens is when we really speed up our handwriting later, it tends to just look like something else. So it's important to keep it clean, crisp, and that's exactly why we avoid the double lines for the small L, for example, or a T. So it's crucial to keep the letters absolutely clean, because later also, and also it's very, very important that our letters are not slanty,
Hmm,
it's straight. Because I feel that if we keep it slanty, then slowly, with kids, because when there's no one around to actually look after what you're writing, the letters are all sleeping on the lines, and it absolutely becomes an issue.
hmm.
So those are the two factors we really take care of why we are doing the cursive course.
That's a great expression, sleeping on the lines there. That's great. Over accented or over tilted for sure. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, historically, uh, the use of cursive came about because of the use of wet ink. It's you don't want to be picking your pen off and creating blots and so forth. And yet, even with our modern writing with the pen and the pencil, even the ballpoint pen, which we'll must return to, um, even with our modern implements, it's actually faster. And speaking of fast, we talked about that with the text. It's actually easier and more efficient to write in cursive as opposed to print. Indeed.
So true, and there's a certain sense of connection. So, everything, John, even the way you dot your I's, cut your T's, everything has a meaning. The way if when you're cutting through your Y's, are you going slanty? Are you going towards the top? How close are you cutting? How far are you cutting? These are all such important pointers we need to take care of, and everything means something. I mean, anyone can just look up about graphologists, and there's a whole concept and theory behind how they really analyze your handwriting. And a lot of times it even actually tells you about your health.
Mm.
So it's
Ah.
crazy the kind of impact your handwriting can have on your personality, to be very honest.
As I mentioned, I'm self-taught, as we say, when it comes to cursive, and um, I recall about this time last year. In fact, there was a workshop, and there happened to be a graphologist there, completely unrelated to the topic of the workshop. And after the lunch break, I saw her very quizzically looking at the sheet of paper, uh, and I don't know what went through her mind. I'll have to show the audience that some other time, my cursive handwriting, which looks like cheesy Arabic letters and all sorts of nonsense. But yeah, the point is you can tell a lot about the personality there. And
Yeah, it's
yes,
it's
yes, go on.
actually funny. It's actually funny that they if you if graphologist tells you about your personality and everything, they have a set of sheets. They can write so much. Are you someone who is patient? Are you someone who gets is short tempered? Everything, so much.
Part of it too, you mentioned, meaning. I mean, that's the whole purpose of communication, is to convey meaningful things. And how interesting, um, that in our lust to go faster and faster and more efficient and more digital and so forth, that we have indeed done that fantastically so, unbelievably so. I mean, we're speaking across the world, Vandana, and we're not even raising our voices. It's remarkable. And yet, whilst the volume of our communication and our text communication increases, so often what we're saying has no meaning. And I
So
think the
true.
cursive brings us back to that intentionality of communication.
So true. And I feel like when you're writing something, it also activates in a way your other senses, right? There's a difference when you're typing versus when you're physically writing something.
Mhm.
There's a more sense of ownership in a way, and it activates so all your senses. You're just alive and so present. So, I mean, handwriting is
And
amazing. I just really hope it doesn't go
mm,
away anytime soon.
there's the aspect of meaning, and then also something we've completely lost, especially in the West here, since the Enlightenment, is the interconnectedness of things. So just as the letters are interconnected, there's a real philosophy there in terms of reality. And that's one of the big things in the West that we have lost, is seeing things synoptically, or seeing them with one eye, literally, as we say, synoptic, one eye. Um, Cursive allows us to to make those connections. I mean, quite literally, quite physically, the letters are connected. There's a philosophy to that, in fact.
So true. And I also like. I'm sure it's a very common word now, and people are. I'm so glad people are getting to know more about it, which is the term, which is something called neuroplasticity,
Mm-hmm.
where it's your brain's ability to actually adapt to conditions and situations. And when you start focusing on letters differently than you used to, it really creates new pathways in your brain and in your mind. And that is something I feel like it's a game changer, because often we are just so used to a certain thought process and a certain pattern of just being that we forget that we can actually work on it, and neuroplasticity is real. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's a book I often reference. In fact, the other day in class, I referenced it, and that's called Wonder Works, which is looking at the novel. And Angus
Okay.
Fletcher, whom I've interviewed on this series, who does a lot of work, oddly enough, with the U.S. military and with these intelligence schools and so forth in America. He wrote this whole book about the different genres of literature, whether that be poetry or epic poetry or ballad or lyric or novel and so forth, as technologies and as ways of engaging different aspects of the brain. And he had this whole point that he was making in that text, Wonder Works, about that, about neuroplasticity and how, in his case, storytelling, in our case here, formation of letters, of how this is really activating different parts of the brain. And as we know with our bodies, if we don't use it, we lose it. Um, and we've all seen that as we fall in and out of exercise routines. That's very much the case. Well, the same with our brain and our functions with handwriting, for instance.
That's so true. And I often tell kids that, we whenever we do something, so our brain always, when we are giving it pointers, any sort of an information, we should not be afraid of it because it actually helps your brain grow. If you're not learning, if you're not, then we're not growing, right? So I physically show them that how, just to explain it to kids, that how your brain really grows when you put in new pointers, do something that you have not done before. And I feel like it's absolutely just like any other machine or a device. That's how our body is, and the brain is a part of it. It's almost like you need to keep oiling the machine as well, right, to keep it just going. It's similar. You need to, you have a body, you have a brain, you need to really keep it active and just keep going, whether it's with our exercises or anything to do with the brain. And I genuinely always tell the kids who I teach with that the power of mind is absolutely mind blowing. Your body follows your mind, it's not the opposite. So that's something we really need to, like, take note of.
Absolutely. I mean, that again, this gets back to this deeper meditation on what education is as opposed to schooling. They should not be opposed. I do not believe they are, in fact, opposed. But a lot of people who are schooled assume once they're through with high school or college that their education is over. And just like the muscle atrophies without use, likewise the brain atrophies. And that is going to be one of the biggest things in the decades ahead is brain atrophy. And you're going to see a lot of neurological problems because people are not engaging these aspects of neuroplasticity, and the brain is turning to mush. You have, and there are stories in this country in the past few years of this rise of people in, believe it or not, their 30s and 40s with Alzheimer's, and part of that we can speculate is the over reliance on things to do the work of the brain. And I believe that's going to continue. And things like cursive and all sorts of other things, including things with our bodies, using our bodies, will help keep our brain in good fettle.
So true, and I feel like this comes to the, I mean, we can connect it with the same point which you mentioned regarding even memorizing numbers. I mean,
Hmm.
no one does that anymore. So I feel that with the whole boom of the digital things, it's great. It's absolutely amazing. Even the way we are being able to talk right now, the way we can actually just connect so many people, like connect with so many people throughout the world. And the world is your oyster, but I just feel like it's supposed to really help us. I just hope we are moving in the right direction. It's not paralyzing us. That is something that is so crucial.
Mm.
Yeah, this is where the point of mind and hand coordination comes as well. So along with making it neat, along with the formatting of the space, and so that it's all clean when we're writing. We don't want two letters to collide and just look the same, or have just a simple L. We don't need to make it into like just two
Mm.
lines. So stuff like that. And how the power of your mind, and how you can really train your brain. That's what I always tell kids: train your brain. And that's really gonna help you with other things as well in life.
And yeah, and part of that training as one gets older is realizing to make time for it. And one of the reasons cursive has fallen out, and indeed all handwriting is falling out of daily use, is because the opportunities to use it are less and less. Well, guess what? We need to find time to do that. We need to find time um, to engage this. And so even after those 15 hours are through, um, one ought to continue with that. I myself, set aside at least 5 to 10 minutes a day just to stay in fettle, just to stay in good form with handwriting. And I think that's part of what we need to recover. Those of us who have been super schooled and super institutionalized, at least in America, educationally, have often let that that I don't know what would you would say, the executive function, the fact that once we're done, once we're out of school, once your course with handwriting is through, Vandana, um, we still need to stay up with it for a certain amount. It's up to us to keep those skills sharp.
Right. We also have cursive refreshers for kids who want to just, after 15 hours, if you just want to throw in a couple of more hours, or maybe like a week, if not
Mhm,
15 hours again. So we have refreshers as well, where you can like sign up again and just have that little bit of revision in a way. So yeah, I mean, definitely I feel like you need to take out things for which is important. It includes everything in life, John. If
mhm.
you don't take out time for it, I mean, it's gonna really go past and one won't even realize. So it's crucial. It's really crucial to take out that time to just practice, have that sense of discipline, and magic happens with discipline, really. So
Yes, absolutely. You can have all the talent in the world, but without, I've seen it. You've seen it with students and with people in our lives. I'm sure the audience has seen it. People with all sorts of talents, but without discipline, those talents are completely useless. And many people waste their talents because of that lack of discipline.
that's so true. And I think I read this really interesting thing by one of the a writer, where he said that inspiration, people always talk about inspiration. I don't have inspiration. How is inspiration going to come? Where do I find inspiration from? Stuff like that. And the writer really mentioned that inspiration comes from discipline. I get up every day, I sit at my desk at 9 o'clock in the morning every single day, and I keep doing that until inspiration strikes me.
Mm.
So that is really how inspiration comes to you. It doesn't come to you out of thin air. So consistency, hard work, discipline. I mean, there's nothing that can beat this. To be very honest.
Excellent. And good. So, any other points on these specifics that one gets out of cursive formation and correction of letters, neat writing, space formatting, position of sheet and pencil, mind-hand coordination? Anything to add to this section, Vandana?
Uh, I mean, we've discussed most stuff. What I really would like to add here is that, like, as a tutor, I really take my, the kind of impact that I can have very seriously without letting it overwhelm me.
Mm,
So, for example, when I was young and when I was in school, I used to go. I very clearly remember, John. We had the staircase, and there were lots of coats, and I remember like seeing at it, and any coat, and just remember having that sort of an impact on me, because it really made my brain think and get very curious on a lot of things. And it could be anything, it could be any quote about anything. So I understand the kind of impact and power that knowledge can have when you're really young. And the faster you have that knowledge and you adapt to it, the better it is. So through this, what I'm really trying to say is, when I teach, I try to put in those stuff through my teaching. Like, just to give you an example, for example, if I'm very, very careful with the words I use, I will not use thin, fat.
mm.
The letter is fat, it's looking thin, can't. Instead,
Ah,
I always, have my ways where, why don't you give it a bit of veggies? I make sure that, your letter is working out. It's fit. It's not sitting on couch all day and eating junk food and french fries.
I love it.
So they know through this that, okay, this is a good thing. This might not be a good thing, you know?
Ah, yes.
And this is just my way of, also I'm very passionate about, health, food, and just fitness in general, and
Hmm.
also everything to do with the brain, personality, and all of that, because that just comes very naturally to me. So I just feel like, without it being really preachy, it's a way for me to just tell you that, okay, this looks a bit not so fit, you know why don't we just give it some good food? So stuff like that.
Yes, kinda get those good messages in there as well, for certain. I've noticed that too, and especially after one goes through any course of study, as we said, it's on them to continue, especially as adults. You give the kids a break. But I notice with handwriting, what I've been able to marry it to um, is language studies, and also my strange obsession with the news. So I'll often watch the news and I'll write down. I'll actually translate into whatever language I'm studying. I'll translate by hand, and I'm working on various interests of myself, including handwriting, in a way that I find enjoyable. Strange that I am with the news events, um, but that's part of that creativity. Whether, as you say, whether you're teaching the children, you want to give them some good messages besides just the nuts and bolts of cursive, or one wants to, after the fact, keep up with this skill. Often it can help if you marry it, if you join it to other pleasurable things.
So true, and it just comes in different ways and forms with every kid. And I also noticed that a lot of times during midway or to the end of our course, it's so interesting that they really start mirroring and, sort of saying the same thing that you used to say, and they'll just
Mm,
tell stuff like, it just looks like it's eating junk food all day, and you just realize, okay, it's really getting in. You should
mm-hmm,
not have it. So that those are the moments that I really cherish, because I understand that it's getting into their system in more ways than one. Even when, after like a couple of years, you need to say things to kids in a way that really sticks with them.
mm-hmm,
So I often feel, John, that when we say that, we I don't intend to make it boring as well. It has to be engaging, but it has to be
mm,
productive. So when kids can't really interpret, understand, get something, it I genuinely believe the system has failed and it's not them.
mm,
You know, I genuinely believe that it's something that, I mean, if it's provided in a correct way, it's going to be received in a correct way. It's
mm.
as simple as that. And if it's not being received, it's not being provided well enough.
Oh yes, and there's a whole world of meaning to that. That would be a whole show to itself there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I see that too. Often putting the cart before the horse. We have rougher sayings in America, but I'll keep it nice and friendly. Putting the cart before the horse. When it comes to schooling, which is not exactly the same as education, as I've suggested to the audience this past hour. Um, Often, one of the real detrimental things is that the child, and even the adult, frankly, um, comes to see learning as simply a hurdle that they need to get through. They need to graduate this course. They need to get this credit. They need to get this degree. And then, as soon as that is obtained, the material covered completely loses its value. And I think that whole disordered paradigm is something that we have the opportunity, now that things are changing so fast in the education field, that we have the chance to really put to bed, so to speak. This idea that education is more than just meeting a hurdle because my parents want me to do this course, or my society wants me to get this degree or whatever, and to really look deeper. And in fact, to our earlier point, speaking of communication, to really get to the meaning of education and the meaning of writing, indeed.
Very true, and I feel that now parents and are realizing this so much more than before, that they really have the access, ability, control to be able to completely tailor the lives of their children. I mean, I'm sure
Mhm.
they knew it before as well, but I feel the awareness is so much more today that
Mm.
parents are really choosing out of the box methods and why go the traditional way. And we just can't have those one or two or three options. I mean, it's long due. I mean, the change is
Mm.
really long due.
Now,
So,
Vandana,
yeah.
in your course with cursive, do you use a specific methodology? It was in this country in the last century, there were some two or three major methods, and you could tell the difference. And they were adopted by different school districts and so forth. Do you use a specific cursive method or cursive, I don't know, tradition, so to speak, or textbook?
Not exactly. I feel like it's what really makes it different and unique is that I curate it as per your child's uh, requirement, the concern areas, and how and the age as well. I mean, and what is it that really interests the kid, and what is it that really do not interest them and turns them off completely. So I mean, for me, it's a lot to do with those personal aspect of things where I have a chat with the parents, and we can anyone can easily book a free call with me through this website as well, which we can get to later. I would also want to, if we can just go a little towards the top, John, where
Yes.
we have a few pointers there that I would like to just focus. These, yeah, like so the
Okay.
age is 6 and up here. I mean, we can start off from 5 as well. I say 6 because usually, sometimes parents don't have the time to be with the kids as well. So they would want them to be on their own, be able to, just handle things. So that's why we have it here. And the classes are thrice a week for an hour. So why I say thrice a week? Because there's a sense of consistency and we follow up on how we are doing. But I also do it in a way where we have classes Monday to Friday, right? Every day for an hour. So we get done in three
Mhm.
weeks. So it's a great way to utilize that time that you have, um, a little holiday or a break, any sort of a break, and just put it to good use. And it's just
Mhm.
1 hour a day, and that's not a lot. Then again, we have interactive because the classes are live completely. The digital resources are provided, and that really depends on again the kid's age. What are you really looking at? Is it a cursive refresher? What are we really aiming at here? And yeah, we also have a certificate of completion. So they really, and I personalize it by putting their letter, the name, the first letter of their name. So I think that really excites them a lot.
Excellent, and those very easy to grasp schematics with some great British English. You need to teach us Americans thrice a week. That's a great word we've lost over here. It's good.
Yeah.
Great. Good. So we have the just for the audience. So if they wanted to do a meeting with you, Vandana, they would hit this logo in the upper right with the telephone. Is that the scheduling button?
Yeah, I mean, that's for the call. If we can go a little towards the bottom, we have all the contact details, and there are different
Ah,
ways.
okay.
So,
All these testimonials too. Wow.
yes.
There
So
we go.
yeah, here
Okay.
you can, so you can book a free session. You can send me a DM on Instagram, Facebook, a direct message on WhatsApp. If nothing else, just click on connect to tutor. Just send a message, and yeah, I'm sure I think all the basic social media platforms are included here, so should be extremely convenient for anyone to connect.
Excellent, and Vandana's pretty much colonized Facebook. I've been on all sorts of education forums and things, and I bumped into her herself. So she's very active on these digital media, which is great because there aren't people offering this material, whether it's the abacus or the cursive. So it's grand that you're so active getting this out, Vandana.
Yes, and I feel like people are really looking for things that can, so a skill that you can take in life, which is much beyond just the basic academics. So I feel that every parent is really looking out for it, and that is what I keep seeing a lot. In fact, cursive is anyone teaching cursive? And also, I mean, I'm sure I don't know if you actually have experienced it yourself, but people are really keen on having pen pals.
Mhm.
So
I was
I
going to ask
mean,
you that actually. Have you considered? I'm asking Vandana this out of the blue, but and so I'd be interested to know altogether. Have you considered as a follow-up, I don't know, course, but maybe a follow-up program with EJ classes to have a pen pal um, setup? Because I mean, I think part of the, as I alluded to earlier, part of the reason handwriting and cursive handwriting has fallen out of fashion is people literally in their day to day don't have the opportunity. Everything's email, everything's text. Have you thought about incorporating the pen pal idea as a program with this?
yeah, I mean, recently someone asked me about it, so that has been on my mind. I haven't actively worked towards it, but I feel like it should be interesting to do that.
Mm.
But what we have been discussing, John, that I feel like it's a good time for us to also like put this out there, is about our summer program. So
Ah, yes, yes.
if you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, so coming up here in the summer, and we'll get the dates nailed down soon enough. Vandana is going to offer a condensed, time-wise, a condensed offering of this. So the 15 hours will still be present, but a little bit more appropriate to a type of summer camp. Or a summer camp's probably to I don't know if that's the right term, but a summer program at least, when
Yeah.
it comes to handwriting, and it'll have all the material in the main course, but appropriate to the scheduling of summer and maybe some appropriate activities there or some themes in terms of the exercises and whatnot. Here in Connecticut, as I told Vandana at a recent meeting, here in Connecticut a few years ago, there was a history society. And in New England, which is the part of America I'm broadcasting from, all the little towns have history societies with very polite old ladies and
Right.
enthusiastic old men who know all the archaic things about families going back 400 years. And well, the one in Danbury, the Danbury History Society, and this is recorded in the newspaper, the Danbury News Times, decided to offer a handwriting course for summer school students. And it was fantastically received. It was a real itch that people had, and that's kind of what inspired us here to make a similar offering with Vandana's skills.
Right. And I also noticed that a lot of times, at least that's how it's in India, when you have like a little break, it's always good to squeeze in a skill that doesn't take a lot of your time. It's just an hour a day, and be able to learn something. So whether it's learning handwriting, whether it's learning a new language, it could be anything. But
Mm,
I just feel like it's always good to sort of no new skill or learning of it is ever gone wasted, right? We all know
mm,
how amazing it is to just have a lot of skills in your bag, and that's going to help you throughout in life as well. So it's an add-on. So I feel like at least that's how it's in India. So it's and I've also noticed that parents also a lot of they are a lot more keen to actually be able to utilize that time and make it productive.
mm. Yeah, I mean, if one doesn't get in the habit of doing that, even as a child or a young adult, that's how you end up, at least in this country, with people in their 30s and 40s, complaining about such and such was boring, such and such, because I don't know. It's a generational thing, I suppose. The whole idea of the consumer and the passive, recipient of entertainment. I think that's something we could all get in the habit of once again is that idea of redeeming the time and making the best of the time that we have, as opposed to just chilling and
Yeah,
just
of course.
vegging out.
So true. Just vegetating. I mean, doesn't. I mean, it's great to do that once in a while if it's because recovery, so to speak, is also super crucial, and just being able to get a good sleep and stuff like that. But I feel like it's one should always be a constant, a learner of life in general, and just keep upskilling yourself in any format, in any
Mm,
format. Really, it could be really anything, but it's always good to, it's this process, John, where it's like you learn, unlearn, relearn, right? It's a
mhm.
cycle. You keep doing that, and that is how you stay um, humble and just always curious. So I think that that's amazing to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with your cursive course and indeed the summer program, which we will have details and posters and so forth in the weeks ahead, anything else to add, Vandana, in this introductory presentation?
I mean, the only thing that I would want to add here is that I feel that, like with a summer course as well, what we're really aiming at is just to get this format and to keep this beautiful art alive as much as we possibly can. And that's what we aim to do with our summer course. So the classes are also personal. It's absolutely it's mostly one on one, because you have to constantly see how the child is making the patterns with the lines and the letters and all of that. So yeah, I feel like we'll have the details very soon, and then we can just kickstart with the classes as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll have all of that contact information down
Yeah,
below, and the other details about the summer will be bringing up the rear soon enough. But yeah, I mean that's the name of the game. I think this has come up again and again. Um, when it comes to culture, which is the ultimate raison d'être of Apocatastasis's, when it comes to handwriting, when it comes to education, when it comes to interpersonal skills, and indeed friendships and other sorts of relationships, it's work. This stuff is
yeah,
work, and it's worthwhile. And having that work ethic, including keeping these old skills around for all of the benefits we've mentioned,
yeah,
for instance, with handwriting, it's worth
yeah,
it. Yeah, it's easier to text and so forth, but there are the benefit outweighs the investment of time with these things. And I think in this time, just generationally, that we have that opportunity, whether it's cursive or with all sorts of things related to culture and human life on this planet, to reevaluate work. I think a lot of us get so burnt out with school, we say to hell with education, and the same I suspect with um work. We've, because of the way work is structured, we find it to be an odious thing when we shouldn't. We just need to make distinctions and maybe contemplate a little bit, and maybe we can do that long form with cursive.
yeah. Of course, everything is work. Really everything is work, and it's almost like like you layer a brick one at a time, and it's only then you can really build a house. It's something as simple as that. So it's the same with cursive. It takes patience, it takes practice, and I'm there to guide you through all of it.
Excellent. And you can get in touch with Vandana or with myself. I can send you on to her if needs be. And all that information is down below. And also,
Yeah.
Vandana is available for indeed mathematics tutorials. And just get in touch and we'll make it happen. Thank you very much, Vandana, for your insights. It was grand talking to you. Here we thought we wouldn't fill up 15-20 minutes, and here we are in an hour. So there you
An
go.
hour. I know. Thank you so much for having me, John. Always a pleasure to chat with you. And I just feel like the way you keep the conversation engaging, and it's happened with us before as well. We can. There are so many different topics on which we can have a chat about. So I feel like humans, neuroplasticity, and I feel like we really just had a good time. So I think that was awesome, and you were amazing with your questions. Thank you for having me.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And I hope the audience had a good, informative session here. So, one and all, signing off here. Vandana, hang on. Don't click out quite yet, but the audience, we're going to click out right now.